Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we talk about 3 or 4 interesting tech topics in the news, get you some cool library fact, send you on your way in about 15 to 20 minutes. As always, if you have anything you'd like to share with us, creationstation@broward.org comes directly to us. And for today, I have Kelly Brown from Collection Management joining us. Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. You, Bob?
Things are good. So tell us, what does collection management actually do for the library? What is your part of this?
Oh,
Why do
you
we
didn't
need you
tell me that
guys?
would be a question. Wow, what do we do? Everything behind the scenes, like all the deep, dark attic activities are here. So we make sure you have something to read, something to watch. My job, I guess, is to make sure you can find what you want to read, watch, and do at the library. So we make sure the catalog is up to par. We are actually central to digitizing parts of our historic collection, and making sure
Yeah,
our
we had a
metadata
FUA
is
on a couple of weeks
there.
ago.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, it
fantastic.
was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So her team gets to do the fun stuff and actually play with the collection, and my team scans it, and then we make sure that we have it set up so that people can find it.
yeah, it's kind of the important thing, or else
It
it's all just
really
a big
is.
pile of books somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have these wonderful treasures here that nobody knows, but you
yeah,
will. Give us time, you will know.
it will find everything, and I think that is a perfect segue. Thank you for doing that just naturally there, Miss
Don't
Kelly.
you love it?
For our pile of things that you have to get
Oh,
lost in here. So I hope everybody here has seen one of these murmurations. That a murmuration is when you get those big flocks of birds in the sky and they're all zooming around each other and doing things. I got a quick little video here to make sure that you see what they're really out there flowing and doing. When you see one of those in the sky, that's a murmuration. You've seen these, right, Kelly?
oh yeah.
So it's that time of year as we're getting into spring that these are going to start popping up more and more for everybody. So as you're looking out there and you're like, wow, how are they all following that bird? They're not. It's really just chaos of what these birds do. They just float and fly, and about, just before sunset for about 45 minutes or so is a traditional thing. And they just all of a sudden fall out of the sky and roost. And it's amazing that these birds don't hit each other, huh? Is that
It's
crazy?
it's this synchronization that I think is existing in nature as a whole, actually,
Yeah,
that we as humans can't seem to do. Um,
exactly. Why
but
can't we figure
the,
this out, huh?
I think we get in our own way a lot of times. I was reading a little bit more about these formations and flocks and
Hmm.
cohesiveness of nature. And one article that I looked at just really broke it down to they all know the rules
Yeah.
and they follow the rules.
Yeah. And that's what makes it amazing. That huge flock you just saw of tens of thousands of birds, every bird somehow makes it from the inside of the flock to the outside, up and down and all around. And they only track the 7 birds that are closest to them.
Right.
That's it. You don't have to track these thousands of birds. You don't have to do any of this. All you have to do is watch what the 7 of them right around you are doing and be aware of what's happening there, and you will be safe.
As long as you can trust that the seven around you are following the rules.
There we go. See, and they're willing to follow the rules.
Right.
It's
And
not
they're
that
willing to
hard,
follow the
people.
rules.
Just follow the rules for a short little time, and you're going to be okay.
And then you'll look
Um,
beautiful like these birds.
yeah. One of the reasons birds do this, by the way, is to protect themselves from hunters. There's
Right.
some other videos we're not going to show, but you can easily find them where you can see hawks and stuff picking off birds on the edges of these big clouds of them, murmurations. So it's really an interesting, fun thing. And if you obviously we put the show notes in all the time for you so that you can see and you can follow some of these videos and try out some of this kind of stuff. No ESP required.
And you do see humans, like sometimes if you watch things like Tour de France, you do
Yeah.
see mass uh, mass amounts of people. And I know you cycle and I cycle,
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah.
how difficult it is to be in those
Yeah.
formations in
And
a
you just,
peloton.
and yeah, once you
And
start getting
one
into it, you
person,
just,
yeah,
yeah.
if that a person around you doesn't do the group think, I guess, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
someone's going to get
Yeah.
hurt.
You
It
have a
just,
plan and you stick with it. Go for it.
and you
Do it.
stick with it, and you
Yeah.
know, you rely on the people around you to follow a formation. And in a peloton, you do change positions, and it's very
Yeah.
structured the way that you do that.
Yeah.
Because you can't draft the whole time. That wouldn't be fair. You have to take the lead sometimes. So
I've done drafting off of a school bus once when I was racing on the streets. It was a lot of fun. It was really, really cool.
you have to do the old 80s thing where you actually hold on to it.
I'm not going to get that crazy. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to at least pretend to be safe.
Uh,
How's that?
Children who are listening, please don't take my
Please
advice.
don't do that. Yeah, please don't grab onto moving vehicles. But our next story, I don't have a good segue for it. Sorry. So seeing is believing. This is a new study out of the University of Bologna, and they have proven now that yes, your eyes actually have something to do with whether you believe something or not, which is really an amazing thing when you start looking at that idea of, because we've all heard, I'll believe it when I see it, or seeing is believing, etc. It's really based in scientific fact that we didn't know about, but now we do, because they were able to track brain waves as people are looking at things and being able to prove, and it, whether you believe it happened or not is dependent upon how well your consciousness saw something happen.
I don't even know if I have anything to say. It's
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the idea on this one that why I found this interesting was that some of the ideas of false memories and how schizophrenia plays into that,
right.
because you're seeing something, so you just believe that it really happened, even if it's a false image, because you weren't paying attention. So something just
Yeah.
floats by really quick. So you just believe it's there or don't believe it's there based on how well you were paying attention to it.
Okay, I feel like I have to do more reading because I know that
Yeah.
I read a
Oh,
book a while
definitely.
ago
Yeah.
about how we see and the fact that only a percentage of what we see it comes through our eyes, that our
Hmm.
brain actually fills in a lot of gaps.
Yep.
Um, and so your brain is making information or inferences based on, I don't know, what it thinks should be there, what was there in the
Yeah.
past.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So then if you have that aspect, and then this article that you are referring to is talking
Hmm.
about the fact that what you believe, it also has to do with the amplitude
Yeah.
of
How
of
strongly you see the image,
yeah.
which is why it came into my box, in my inbox, was because of VR. Because when you
Uh,
put on virtual reality gear, you're seeing it. It's there in front of you. I do this with augmented reality all the time with school kids, and I'll throw up a hologram or I'll put some fish in a coral reef in their classroom and just give them 2, 3 minutes looking at that coral reef through the augmented reality, and they can point out exactly where those fish are, where that thing is after they take the glasses off, because they saw it. They really believe it's there.
so
And it
then
takes a long time to forget where those things are.
I wonder because when you take in information, you don't just
Hmm.
take it in with your eyes, you take it in with your
Yeah.
sense of smell and
Yep.
hearing and just even tactily, like you feel the hairs on your neck stand up or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I wonder how that relates
Yeah.
in
As we get
terms
more
of,
in depth with VR stuff and the ability, because right now we have, sound, we have sight, we have touch.
but is it
Um,
the same? Like,
People,
is
yeah, it
it
does.
like
Yeah, you remember the skills. What as you've done something in VR, you remember how to do it outside of VR too. And now
interesting?
they're starting to find these scientific studies are starting to find out why this is happening and why if you see something you react to it so strongly. If you have a really strong visual addition to it, then that means that thing is really real. Even if the rest of your brain, like you said, smell, sound, all the other things are saying, wait, there's nothing there. There's no fish. I'm not smelling the ocean. But your eyes are telling you there's an ocean there.
So then I wonder, like, how does that compare? Like,
Yeah.
if if you just see it, is
How
it
do those
as
memories? Yeah.
believable
That's that we're at the beginning of
and
that now.
as
Yeah.
realistic as you know, you can be somewhere and you know you're there by the smell before you see
Yeah.
it
Uh-huh.
sometimes, especially if it's very attached to memories. I know what my hometown smells like,
Yeah.
which is very weird to say,
What
but I
grandmother's house
miss that
smells like
smell.
because she's always got that kitchen
Right.
going.
Or
Yeah.
that whole Proustian thing where the
Hmm.
scent of a certain soap might bring back a
Yeah.
memory of your aunt or whatever it is. But taste and smell are
Yeah.
so
Yep. Those
attributed
over,
or
yes,
focused
things
on
that overlay
memories.
on top of this and reinforce this thing. Yeah.
And I
I
think
agree.
they're more important to memory. Personally, I think smell and taste more so than even sight very often. So then you wonder, like,
Uh-huh.
where is that going to go?
I don't know.
No,
Let's
I don't know.
well let's talk about that other next one, that next
Uh,
story. This is isn't this the
this
weirdest?
is this is this is a hard story for me.
Isn't it crazy? Okay, so this is a really long, in-depth article. So please go back and read this one fully. It's talking about deepfakes. We've talked about deepfakes before here on the show, where you're taking a computer program and simulating someone, something, and making it look like they are there or they have said something or doing something like that. Well, this story is talking about how people are beginning to use this to help with the mourning process, to help with remembering people. And it's basically moving our things from remembering them by a physical photograph to moving them to a digital photograph to moving them to a 3D representation of that photograph. There's a company called MyHeritage that can take photographs, and if you give them 2 or 3 photographs, they can recreate it into a partial 3D image. What do you think about it? What do you think about how people react to these things, Kelly?
I have to admit, like I went kind of crazy on this article and started
Isn't it?
taking many marks,
Yeah.
like I was in back in graduate school or something, because I had a lot of questions. I don't know. Again, very complex. So on the one hand, you're talking about a personal grieving process, which is quite honestly personal. Everybody
Hmm.
goes through that process in a different way. And I don't necessarily think that one person can say you have to grieve a certain way. But this isn't a personal grieving process the way that it's being described here. It's it's
Yeah.
out, like it's in the community that people are doing it. And that makes it different. Um, I don't know if I
So that this is where,
misinterpreted.
yeah. No, I don't think you are. I think so. Part of the issue is for those who haven't read the article yet, obviously, to really briefly, it's the idea is, as Kelly was saying, it's there are quote unquote rules about how you mourn, and everybody's got their own personal and individual rules in the old days. And to be clear, this article gets so in depth because they take it from the Civil War times of when photography just started. And there were photographers out there that were taking pictures of bodies of people who had recently died and then interspersing those photos with photos of live people so it would look like they were still there with the family, or they were doing things with time-lapse photography to create little ghosts or spirits as part of the photo and things. Um, and then going through all the way up to this modern age of doing recordings with AI and everything like that. Yeah, it's where do you draw? Where do you? I guess it, as you said, it really becomes a personal thing.
Well, yeah, the grieving is personal. So, but then this article introduces so many different things. I think that's where it really does. So, on the one hand, they talk, like you said, about spirit photography and
Hmm.
post-Civil War. And I know that that's been a big deal for a while because even Mary Todd Lincoln apparently
Yeah.
became a spiritualist after
Hmm.
Abraham Lincoln's death. I remember reading that a long time ago. But that was such like that photography, the use of the technology didn't emerge on its own. It became this whole like an accompaniment to the introduction of spiritualism as a belief system.
Yeah.
And I think what I've read in the past is that spiritualism emerged because the Civil War was so devastating. It, I think, still to this day, one of the most
Yeah.
devastating wars in history in terms of
Hmm.
population, right?
Yep. It's for the United States, definitely.
For
Yeah.
the United States, correct. So, um, because the country was dealing with that, and then all of the reconstruction after that, spiritualism kind of had this home because people were uncertain. They didn't know what to make of things. Life had changed tremendously. Um, so spirit photography kind of went with that.
Yeah.
And here we're talking about the technology, but and I think again they're making the point that you've got COVID or post-COVID. It's not really
Hmm.
post, but
Yeah.
and that we're going through the same thing where we've had mass casualties and now society has to use a technology to kind of help ourselves deal. But
Yeah. And
and
then using all the things like AI, machine learning, and all this stuff that goes along with it, and taking a image. Two of the examples that they use in here is being able to take your image and pre-zoom something and set it all up ahead of time so that it can be quote unquote played for other people afterwards. With I'm kind of okay with that one. I mean,
I know
it's
you
really not
are.
much more. It's not much more than just recording something by sound for them to play later on. Or people save those voice recordings from their, deceased relatives. You save a voice
I
message.
think if you
The
like,
one that creeps me out a little bit, though, I will admit, is the idea of taking like the little kid who dies and then
oh,
aging them so that you know
nope,
what they would have looked like when they turned 20. I'm
no,
like, let
abort.
them be, yeah, let them be at that moment. Let them be at the moment that, life ceased. Keep that. Though, me personally, again, this is all a
Right,
very, very personal
right.
thing.
If yeah, the aging of the dead child, and really
Yeah.
even the it's one thing if you have old videos of your parents when you were
Hmm.
kids and you sit and on their birthday you watch it and it's one
Yeah.
of those things that you do. I don't begrudge anybody doing that. But to create content of a deceased person, like
Yeah.
who I'm confused about who writes the script there. Like,
Well, I think that's machine learning. It's creating
but
you feed it enough of what the person had written and said and things, and
yeah, but
it can
that
then,
gets
oh, I
weird.
get you. I know.
That
And that's
I've
the
seen too many
final, yeah.
bad
Yeah.
movies
The,
that
the
things go
final thought
wrong.
before we leave this one is at the ending of the article, they talk about the idea that we already have in place laws about physical things like your organs that the law says you have to respect.
Right.
So we need to start thinking about that in this digital realm, uh, whether someone wants to be continued as a digital presence or not. they brought up the example of Prince. Before he died, he made it clear he did not want to become a hologram. He did not want to be extended out beyond. And then the people of his who took over his estate decided they would create some stuff like that. So that's what this show's all about, folks. We help you find an interesting story that you're going to spend some time this weekend going over and talking about and thinking.
But this one, yeah, I don't
Uh-huh.
know. This one is, and I didn't get a chance to read it, but there's an article in Wired, I think recently, where they have created an AI Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
Um, or
Doing paintings similar to in his style. Yeah.
and yeah, again, I
We
have
live in the
issues with
future.
that.
Yeah. We live in the future and we need to have these conversations so that everybody's on board with what's going to go on. So we know what the general populace, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I never thought I would hear Bob Hanstead say this. I am a true believer that, and this came from a lot of
Uh-huh.
things, but just because the technology has the ability to do something doesn't mean we should rush into doing it
Yep.
just for the sake of doing it. And technology or even non-technological advancements, they have consequences.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you need to stop and think, is this the world I want to create? Um,
Take a deep thought.
yeah.
Yep. I fully agree with
And
you on
nobody
that one.
wants to slow down to do that anymore, I don't think. I think
Well, that's what we're doing today. We're giving them a chance to slow
we're
down and think. There we go. How's that? Thank you so
here
much for
serving
this,
you.
Kelly. See, this is the fun part about these. Can you, again, look, more than 20 minutes already passed. This is like one of our longest episodes right now. So I'm going to do a really quick thing for a share of our thing, but thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
No
This is a lot
problem.
of fun.
Thank you,
We gotta
Bob.
get out there and do. The cool library thing for everybody is Artlet that's happening this Saturday. So just in 2 more days, please, if you're in the South Florida area, you need to show up for this. This is the first time we've been able to do it outside in 2 years and have everybody outside being part of this, the 5th year overall for this event. So please come on out to the Pompano Beach Library and Cultural Center. It's put on by the library system and the city of Pompano, and it's a huge event that you will all have a great time with. We will have to have you back on at some point here, Miss Kelly. We're gonna have to talk about all these things again.
I told you I can never shut up.
It's a great thing. So let's just throw up our final slide here. Again, if you have a story you want to see your favorite librarian on, you want to hear more like this, let us know. creationstation@broward.org. Also, a special note, I am off next week. We're gonna have a special guest host for us. It'll be a surprise for you all. We'll see you then. Stay safe.